a recent government study released on cdc.gov. It explains that 80% of adult Americans don't get the recommended amounts of exercise each week. That's potentially setting themselves up for years of health problems. Now, according to the CDC, exercise can help control weight and reduce the risk for developing heart disease and some cancers, while providing mental health benefits. On today's show, Dr. Dennis Garcia of WSU's Health and Wellness Services explains how we can help improve our health by doing the little things. Welcome to our final episode of the year. I'm your host, Greg Mills. This is xConnect Northwest. Before we get going, a reminder that you at home can chime in with your questions. All you have to do is connect with us on Twitter. That's at NWPTV. You can use the hashtag xConnectNW. On Facebook, look for Northwest Public Television, or you can live chat with our producer at nwptv.org. Dr. Garcia, thanks a lot for joining us today. Once again, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Now, today we're going to talk about exercise. Obviously something that is, or at least should be, a part of all of our lives, I would guess, on a daily basis. And we're going to talk through that a little bit. What really is exercise all about for us? What does it do for us?
So exercise is really about just maintaining what we have and making what we do have better, so that as life goes on and as we age, we can handle what's presented to us. One of the things I like to talk about is when you are thinking about exercise program, you try to focus on incorporating sort of three things into that program. And one is the cardiorespiratory fitness. A lot of people like to call it the cardio. That's important. The other part that's important is the muscular fitness, or some people will call it strength training, lifting weights. And then the third, and I think just as important, especially as you get older, is the flexibility. And that's, the stretching type of exercises.
So oftentimes people are doing an awful lot of cardio as a choice for their exercise, oftentimes exclusively, I think, if I were to think of a lot of people I know, and maybe even myself sometimes. And that's mostly because you want to just burn calories for weight loss. And maybe we don't spend as much time on the strength and the flexibility. Does that ring true, do you think?
I think for a lot of people that does ring true. And I personally preach that a fair amount, meaning if you're limited in time, if you don't have a lot of opportunities to exercise, pick cardio, because cardio saves lives.
Okay.
The other two are important as well, but cardio definitely saves lives.
Now, some people might say or think, the more I exercise, the better off I'm going to be. Does that hold any sort of truth to it, or is that dangerous in some places?
That's dangerous, and that reflects back to the things I talked about on one of our previous shows about moderation. Exercising in moderation is probably the best thing for you. You can definitely overdo it and create other problems, but we don't want to put doubt in our public. We want them to exercise and again pick something that's safe and healthy for themselves. As we
get a little bit older, do we sort of change the amount of one of the, do we split the thirds that we're talking about as far as flexibility, strength, and cardio a little bit differently than maybe we would if we were in our 20s or 30s?
Yeah, definitely. The balance stays very similar though, but the intensity changes.
Okay.
So as you get older, and let's say we're talking now the over 50 age group, strength training is important, but not heavy strength training. Okay. You want to do lighter strength training, higher reps, lower weights. Just stimulate the muscles, lift to fatigue. A lot of people talk about trying to exercise at 60 or 70% of your 1 rep max. And that's kind of dangerous for an older person, because you really don't know what your 1 rep max is. So it's more like do an exercise that you can do for 10 to 15 repetitions with some muscle fatigue, but not hurting yourself while you're doing those particular lifts.
If we want to be in touch with the numbers, as they say, and there are several ways to do that now, even more than we've ever really had, but how, when you're exercising, do you calculate that maximum heart rate?
Yeah, there's a real simple, I think, it's a simple formula that we've used for years and years, and it's still relatively popular today, and it's you take the number 220 and you subtract your age. Okay. So let's say you're 50 years old, so 220 minus 50, I think, gives you 170. And then you want to exercise for cardiovascular benefits around 70% of your maximal heart rate. So 70% of 170, that would be 70 plus 49. Let's round it off to 50, 130.
Okay.
So you want to shoot for a heart rate of around 130 for anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes several times a week. And that would be a rough estimate as to what you should be trying to achieve if you're a normal, healthy person. Now, if you have medical conditions, you need to kind of consult with your physician to make sure that everything is safe for you.
Absolutely. The holiday season, here we are. Food, lots of it. A study published by the American Journal of Sports Medicine in 2006, they showed that short walks after dinner were more effective than long exercise sessions in reducing the amount of fat and triglyceride levels in the bloodstream after a hearty meal. How true is that, or how does that work with the short burst walks versus the longer ones?
Yeah, that's very true. If you can imagine, if you were wanting to exercise for 30 minutes a day, but you don't feel like you have 30, 40, 50 minutes to go exercise, a short, brief, brisk 10-minute walk after a meal can accomplish the same thing. And if you can imagine that going for a walk speeds up your heart rate, speeds up your circulation, gets things moving in your blood quickly after a meal as you are absorbing the nutrients from your food. So definitely that's a beneficial thing to consider and consider doing. It also keeps you from getting the after meal blahs where you just want to sit in the couch and take a nap after a big meal.
And that one has its own set of consequences, I suppose, because you oftentimes don't get out and get the exercise.
Correct.
And maybe we should talk about that for a minute. The best time to exercise is when? We'll continue to talk a little bit about what the best kinds of exercise are, but when's the best time to do it?
I think the best time to exercise is anytime.
Okay.
However, many people, as you get older, you feel stiff and achy in the morning. That's probably not the best time to go.
Okay.
It's probably better when the sun is up, you've been up for a while, you're looser, you feel better, you have your balance, you're not dizzy. That's the time to go when you feel your sharpest. When you're younger, you can afford to get up at 5 in the morning and crank out your hour of exercise before you go to work in the morning. But as you get older, you're better off doing it in the middle of the day after your body has warmed up a fair amount. So that would be good advice, I think.
And we talked about getting your heart rate up to that 130 was the example that we were using, but whatever your maximum comes out to be. There are all kinds of different exercise. Obviously, particularly in the cardio realm, you can really get your heart rate up if you're somebody who goes out and runs hard versus somebody who goes out and gets their exercise in by walking. Are there benefits either way as to how you get your exercise, or how much longer do you need to walk to get yourself up to that rate where you're really keeping yourself in pretty good shape?
Yeah, so if you're a non-exerciser, we always say start out low and slow. At least get moving, get going, get started. If you want to incorporate strength training, start out with just one set of exercises or one set of repetitions where you don't injure yourself, you don't get too sore.
For sure.
If you try to, crank out a full body weightlifting program on one day, you'll be so sore you won't exercise for another week and you'll lose your motivation.
I've done that.
Yeah, so slow and slow, start out slow. One thing that I highly recommend is if you're not working out right now, consider purchasing a pedometer. Pedometers are fantastic little units that measure your steps, and according to the American College of Sports Medicine, they recommend that most active adults should get around 10,000 steps a day. And again, it just depends on what you're doing. If you're getting 6,000 steps a day, but it's a very vigorous physical walk, well, that's just as effective. But sometimes that little pedometer on your hip or in your pocket stimulates you to get up and walk back and forth to the, let's say, living room or kitchen or bedroom a couple more times to get your steps in, or take an extra trip to the recycle bin if that's what your habit is, or just go up and down the stairs in your house once or twice more to try to get the more steps. So pedometers can be very good motivational tools. Another thing is an exercise buddy. Just like with the college students, I tell them if you're having trouble being motivated to study, and get a study buddy. Well, if you're having trouble exercising, get an exercise buddy, because someone that's depending on you to show up and to go with them or accompany them is motivation for a lot of people. And it's all about getting started. A lot of us have trouble getting started.
Yeah, and I think some of the informational tools can make it even a little more interesting or fun in a way. Your phone, some of the various wrist things you can buy to calculate those steps and to find out where your health is. Calculate a lot of different things other than steps, but I know even my phone will do that. And it's kind of astonishing when you look at the end of a regular day, maybe even not one that you went out and did some exercise during, to find out how many steps you're taking or how many flights of stairs you're going up and down by the end of the day. I think it can be kind of motivating. Do you think so?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. That was a really good point about your phone, because most smartphones nowadays have numerous apps to measure your activity. Whether it's walking, running, or bicycling, you have it already on your person, and you may not even realize it. You don't have to go purchase the pedometer. I think it's important to think about different types of exercises that you might want to participate in as well. For example, as we get older, we lose our flexibility naturally. We lose the elasticity of our muscles.
Sure.
So we want to try and maintain that, because it helps us keep our balance, our ability to do simple things like walk up and down stairs. So things like yoga, Tai Chi, and just plain old stretching exercises have a huge impact on how well our body works for us.
And how about our immune system while we're on that question? If you're keeping fit, I have to make I would think, easy assumption that you're going to be healthier.
Absolutely. And I think we had touched on that topic once before, but moderate exercise does boost your immune system and helps fight off viruses and keeps your immune system as healthy as can be. So that's definitely a plus.
How about our mental health? How does that fit in with the amount of exercise that we're getting and the type that we're choosing to get?
Yeah, so that was probably, I would say, number 2 on the list of benefits that exercise can do for our body, and reducing stress, reducing anxiety, helping control or keep depression at bay during the long, dark winter months. It also helps you with your sleep. A lot of people develop sleep or disturbances such as insomnia, or a thing we call sleep latency, meaning how long it takes you to get to sleep at night. And exercise helps improve all of those conditions for most people.
Are there some exercises as we get older that we maybe should put on the shelf, that we should avoid? Joint trouble, is running a tough one as you get older, for instance?
Definitely, running is a tough one, and you don't know who you are till you start to have problems. We all have seen people in their 80s running marathons, and it's like, wow, that's impressive, because there are very few people that can do that later in life. And a lot of it has to do with genetics and your previous joint history. So we recommend, as time goes on and as you get older, back off on the traumatic weight-bearing activities and focus more on preserving your joint health. And again, ways to do that is by stretching. Stretching the large muscle groups increases your flexibility, gives you better joint function. Walking isn't good exercise. That's not a traumatic type of exercise, even though it's weight-bearing. So that's something that everybody should consider if they don't or can't or don't want to run.
Right.
And of course, the exercise machines. A stationary bicycle is a very good machine. For some people, the elliptical machine, although if you're older and you have balance problems, that's something to be careful about.
But it sounds like those are a little lower impact on your joints, that might be a good place to go if you're rehabbing, even from a small injury, or if you just want to kind of take some of that hard joint pain out of your exercise.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, the stationary bike, the elliptical machine, the things that you see in the health and fitness facilities.
Yeah.
And again, walking usually is pretty low impact for people that might be recovering from a joint injury or joint operation.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Always great to have you here. We learned something today.
Well, thank you.
We'll put it right into practice.
Happy to be here.
Right.
Go out and exercise.
Thanks to Dr. Garcia for joining us today. And thank you at home for helping us out. We hope you enjoyed today's show, our last one of the season. Remember, you can stay connected with us all week, tweeting us, liking us on Facebook, adding us to your circle on Google+, emailing us at kwsutv@wsu.edu. And send us your show ideas as well. Love to hear from you. If you missed any part of today's show, don't worry. We'll have it available online at nwptv.org. Big thanks to all of our guests, viewers, and supporters. We'll be back and better than ever in January. And beginning in January, you can catch us on air both at KWSU and KTNW. More details on that, head to nwptv.org. I'm Greg Mills. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on air and online.